not attempt to change this.
Good morning. Welcome to Talkline on the MetroNews Radio Network.
Do not attempt to change this nation. You are surrounded.
We interrupt this program to bring you an emergency news bulletin. Repeat, this is an emergency bulletin. Keep your radio turned on.
Holy smoke.
From the studios of the West Virginia Radio Corporation and the MetroNews Radio Network, the voice of West Virginia, comes the most powerful radio show in West Virginia. This is MetroNews Talkline with Hoppy Kercheval.
Check set line up link. Activated Telos telephone. Switch network control from Charleston to Morgantown.
Stand by. Q Hoppy. You're on.
Good morning. Welcome to Talkline on Metro News in and around the great state of West Virginia. Hoppy Kercheval with you. J.R. Falls, our producer. Aristotle Jones handling the video stream. You can watch us at the Metro News channel at wvmetronews.com. A lot of politics for you today. The shakeup in the auditor's race in West Virginia with Glenn Gaynor's announcement that we reported yesterday later in the day, and Glenn will join us here in just a couple of minutes. Also coming up, Jeffrey Pollack. Jeffrey Pollack is with Global Strategies. He is the pollster for Jim Justice. They put out a poll this week that says Justice is expanding his lead on Bill Cole. Now, this is Justice's poll, but it's also Jeffrey Pollack, who's got a rep. He's a credible guy. And so we're going to talk with Pollack about that poll. Chris Steiwalt, Fox News digital politics editor. A lot of buzz about the comments made by Donald Trump. We'll get to that this morning as well with a couple of different perspectives. So a lot to do. Let's start with Auditor Glenn Gaynor, who joins us on Metro News Talkline. Glenn, good morning. How are you?
Morning, Hoppy. How are you this morning?
I'm well, sir. You sound like a guy this morning who a weight's been lifted from your shoulders. Why do you sound that way?
Well, I'll tell you, I probably had the best night's sleep I've had in quite a few years.
Really?
Night.
Really?
Absolutely. I tell you, I feel great, really, I really am looking forward to moving on and moving out of politics.
Well, they say that if you feel good about it after you make the decision, then it was the right decision. That's what they say.
Yeah, I know without a doubt that this was the right decision, and actually, the decision was actually made, and I probably received peace that this was the right decision for me in my life in church about 2 weeks ago.
Really? Why that? What happened then?
Church is a special place. I'm there every Sunday, and it's just a place that, when you get alone with God, He tells you, at least He always has in my life, He's always led me and shown me the right way, and I've always trusted in that.
Mm-hmm. So why are you not running? I mean, you've served 6 terms. You had a great chance, although you would have had pretty stiff opposition, of being reelected to a unprecedented 7th term. Why are you not running again?
I'm 56, Hoppy, and I've had opportunities come before me in the past to do something different, and I really had always felt that I hadn't completed and fulfilled the vision that I had when I took this office. I now feel that I have completed that vision. We get this new accounting system up and completed. I will have done everything I had set out to do. And, I think it's time to let somebody else come in behind me that has a vision and let them carry things on. And I feel I've completed my vision, and it's time to move on. And quite honestly, I want to do something else. And if I was ever going to do something else and make a change in my life and move in a new direction, I had to do it. And I'm not getting any younger, and I just think this was the right time.
What do you want to do?
I've got something, and I'll share that at some point. But I know what I'm going to be doing, and when the time is right, I will share that.
Glenn Gaynor's with us, who has announced that he's not running for re-election in 2016. I said this morning in a commentary, I said you've been successful politically and you've managed to pretty much steer clear of the rough and tumble nature of politics. That changed earlier this year when you came under withering criticism for how your office handled a switchover of the state's payroll from the 24 periods to 26 weeks. You got in a pitched battle with the not to be confused with the auditor, the legislative auditor, Aaron Allred. Also, you were criticized by Republican leadership, not only for the payroll issue, but the OASIS computer system, which you said is one of your legacies. So how much of that played in your decision not to run for re-election?
That really had no bearing on my decision. If anything, that was the one thing that would have caused me and was weighing on me to run again. But, at the end of the day, and I think I told you this yesterday on the phone, Hoppy, I have always based my decisions in this office based on what I believed, based on the information I had and the knowledge I had of doing what was right for the people of West Virginia. And I've never played politics in this office. This is an office that I've always looked at needs to stay above the fray of politics because, my philosophy on public service, Hoppy, has always been when the election's over, and you represent all the people. And that's the way I've always tried to run my public life and my political career, and I'm proud of that. But, I still say what we have done and where we are going with OASIS is right for West Virginia. It's absolutely the right thing. Why should West Virginia not follow and do what and operate in an environment that every Fortune 500 company operates in? Over 40 states now operate with enterprise-wide systems. We have to operate in the public environment and be competitive and know that the financial statements of West Virginia are sound and proven, and people can take that to the bank and be much more transparent. And that's what OASIS will do. The payroll thing is the same thing. It was the right decision to do. I stand by that decision, and I think for the state to do anything differently than that would be a monumental mistake.
Glenn Gaynor's with us, the state auditor who's announced he's not running for re-election in 2016. In our conversation yesterday, you said politics are changing. And again, the Republican Party has made significant advances. West Virginia is what appears to be a red state now. They are ginned up for the next election. How much of the changing political scene in West Virginia contributed to your decision?
Well, I don't get into the D and the R piece of it as much as I think the environment, the political environment, and when I'm talking about the environment, I'm talking about how decisions are made and has changed. And that's on both parties. That's on both sides. Today you get into a meeting and you start discussing a tough political decision. The first thing everyone wants to talk about is public opinion polls. And how's this going to play in the public opinion, and what's public opinion think about this? As leaders, that's not, our job is to form public opinion, not react to it. And that changing environment has probably been more disturbing to me, Hoppy, than anything else. And it doesn't matter what environment you're in or what meeting, it always gets around to that. And, I look at it that, we operate in an environment, it's a republic, democracy, and people are elected to make decisions based on the facts and make decisions based on what is long-term in the best interest of the state, not what's politically expedient.
Auditor, go ahead. I'm sorry.
And that's probably the change that I have seen happen more so over the last 24 years than anything else. And it's a change that I don't think really is necessarily good. Mm-hmm. I think a strong two-party system is great. I think that's good. That gives, voters a choice and an option. But it's just the way political decisions are being made in the political arena is probably something that I distaste more than anything else.
Auditor Glenn Gaynor is with us, not running for re-election in 2016, 6 consecutive terms. And Glenn, there had been I had heard discussions that you were not going to run again I'd heard there over the last week or two, but also that you might resign rather than serve out your term. You told me yesterday that in fact you do want to serve out your term, which would end in January 2017. Did you give thought to resigning?
No, I really hadn't. That kind of caught me. I'll be honest with you. I saw that rumor. Actually, I was sitting on the couch watching TV on Saturday, watching a college football game, when somebody sent me that latest rumor. And I'll be honest with you, that probably is why I made my announcement yesterday, because it disturbed me that somebody thought I was running. I am committed to finishing out this Oasis project. That's I'm going to get that job done, and I'm going to finish that job. I hope to get that job done before January of 2017, and that's what my goal is. And I'm going to get up every day between now and then and work to try to make sure that's completed. Work with the governor, work with the treasurer, who are equal voices in that process, and make sure we get this job done.
For those who don't know, Oasis is this massive restructuring of the state's computer system, try to standardize the billing and accounts receivable and payments, right, of the state?
It's standardizing all of our, basically standardizing the business processes of state government, and making sure that every department, every agency is operating using sound, proven, best business case, best service application, and so that it doesn't matter if you're in DHHR or DOT. When it comes to processing payroll and payments, we're doing it the exact same way across state government.
Glenn, I don't think
about great efficiency.
I don't think anybody would argue with updating to best business practices, especially considering where we were. But you would concede that there have been more than a few rough edges in the transition, correct?
Well, and it's not that, because what we have done, Hoppy, is put those best practices in place. That's the way these software programs are designed. It's I won't say it's nothing new under the sun, because these are applications. The application we're implementing here in West Virginia is exactly what Colorado just got done putting in. Alabama just did it. Arizona did it. Alaska. These are sound, and this is a very sound system. What creates the rough edges is change, and it is monumental change, and that's what makes it difficult. The hardest thing is to hold course and say, hey, I understand change. Change is hard, but we've got to work our way through these changes, because it's what's in the long-term best interest of the state. And so, when I look at it, the system is working the way the system is designed and the way the system is working in a myriad of other states.
Auditor,
the adoption of the change.
Auditor Glenn Gaynor, Mr. Gaynor, it's good to speak with you today. Good luck on the next phase of your life, and we'll be talking with you over the next 13 months while you continue serving out the rest of your term. Thank you for coming on today.
Oh, thank you, Hoppy, and God bless.
All right, take good care. Auditor Glenn Gaynor not running for re-election. Now, this is what's up with that race. J.B. McCuskey, Republican delegate from Kanawha County, announced a couple of months ago he was running. So if Gaynor had run, there was going to be stiff opposition. McCuskey is a viable candidate. Now the challenge is on the Democratic side, who are they going to get to replace Gaynor? Because Gaynor had been elected 6 times. And in fact, the name Gaynor had become almost synonymous with the position of auditor. Only for 4 years, between 1960 and today, only one 4-year period existed where a person not named Gaynor was the state auditor. And that was from 1972 until 1976, when Republican John Gates was the auditor. He was elected after Denzel Gaynor, a distant cousin of Glenn Gaynor III, who was elected in 1960, died in office just prior to the 1972 election. And then after Denzel Gaynor, the job was held by Glenn Gaynor Jr., Glenn Gaynor, the current auditor's father. Then when he retired in 1992, Glenn Gaynor III, who we just spoke with, was elected auditor that year, and then 5 consecutive terms after that. On the Democratic side, we'll talk about that after this.
Hunger, injustice, poverty. We see it, but what can we really do? Where is the hope? The hope is in you And Catholic Charities West Virginia can help you extend hope, grace, and mercy to the most vulnerable in our communities. They're calling all people of goodwill to serve our brothers and sisters mired in poverty, burdened with disease and injustice. Join with Catholic Charities West Virginia and change a world. Visit CatholicCharitiesWV.org because the hope is in you.
Hi, it's Tony Caridi with a question. What can a video do for you? Well, if you're in business or part of an organization, let me tell you what videos have done for our clients at Pikewood Creative. Our commercials have generated millions of dollars in new business. Our long-form videos have helped capital campaigns raise tens of millions of dollars. That's what a video can do for you. If you have a need, then visit us at pikewoodcreative.com. That's Pikewood Creative.
You're listening to Talkline on MetroNews. For 30 years, the voice of West Virginia.
Wildfires burn millions of acres each year. And each year, wildland firefighters like Fire Chief James Hall battle to contain them. But they can't do it alone.
A single ember that escapes from a wildfire can travel more than a mile. It can ignite and destroy your home, your community, or more. That single ember can be just as dangerous as the wildfire itself. But you can do something firefighters can't. You can act now to prepare your home and your community for wildfire. You can reduce the risk. Do your part. Go to fireadapted.org.
Get fire adapted. Learn what you can do now to reduce wildfire damage later at fireadapted.org. A public service message brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service and the Ad Council. Learn more at fireadapted.org.
We used to think all lung cancer was the same.
Now we know that each tumor may have a different genetic makeup.
Several different molecular types of lung cancer have been identified.
By performing molecular testing on a lung cancer tumor, doctors can try to determine what's causing the cancer to grow.
It's a different way of looking at lung cancer.
Because lung cancer can affect anyone.
The young or old.
Smokers or non-smokers.
You or me.
Knowing the molecular profile of my tumor helped determine my treatment options.
Anyone can get lung cancer, and not all lung cancers are the same. Talk to your doctor to see if molecular testing is appropriate for you. Visit lungcancerprofiles.com to learn more. That's lungcancerprofiles.com. A public service of 6 leading lung cancer advocacy groups with support from Pfizer Oncology.
Talkline presented by MVB Bank, your most valuable bank member, FDIC. I'll get back to the auditor's race in just a moment and the Democratic hopefuls there. But first, let's get an update on the radicalization of the 2 shooters in San Bernardino. Jessica Rosenthal, Fox News Radio on the West Coast. And Jessica, what additional information have we learned concerning the radicalization of the 2 shooters?
Well, things seem to be trickling in, and investigators confirm that they're, looking into different aspects of all of these pieces of information. But right now, we're sort of keeping track of a few things. Namely, one, that the suspects in this case, apparently a nearly $30,000 deposit was made into Syed Farouk's bank account. And he was cashing out some of that money, and investigators are looking into whether or not, first of all, where that money came from. Mm-hmm. Second of all, if that money was being cashed out, who was it being given to? And there's a discussion, at least maybe some speculation is the appropriate word, that this money was going possibly to the man who lived next door to Syed Farouk and gave him 2 of the guns that were used in the shooting, and as well as looking into, or at least trying to speak with that neighbor who has since checked himself into a mental health facility in Long Beach, California. And on top of that, the suspect's mother lived with his mother. And so, of course, law enforcement have spoken to her. What the outcome of that is, we don't know just yet, but certainly it was not a large house
Right.
So, she was living very close to them, and all of the components to make these pipe bombs were found in that same location. And this is where these two were hanging out regularly. So her involvement or what she might have known is of interest. Also who these people were speaking to. There is word that that while the suspects here, Farouk and his wife Tashfeen Malik, had pledged some sort of support using false names on Facebook or other social media outlets to ISIS or to other leaders, other people associated, or who had also claimed that they were in line with that sort of extremist thinking, who they were in touch with. Was it overseas or was it locally? And there is discussion that the people that Farouk and Malik were talking to were not necessarily overseas, even though they had traveled overseas. They'd been in Pakistan, and Malik, the wife, had lived in Saudi Arabia, and they had traveled overseas in Pakistan and Saudi Arabia, and had been married in Saudi Arabia. So the investigation isn't done overseas by any stretch, but certainly there's some keen interest in with whom these folks were speaking with here in the United States.
Jessica Rosenthal, Fox News Radio, on the radicalization of the two suspects in the San Bernardino shooting. As you referenced, Ms. Malik posted a message on Facebook just before the attack, apparently pledging allegiance to Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, the leader of the terror group Islamic State, according to officials. So that's a key piece of information.
Yes, that's a key piece of information, and it'll be interesting to find out what, obviously, more about that, but also not just that, but the idea that apparently Syed Farouk might have been in touch with, or at least reading posts or information by a man by the last name of Hassan, a former, I think he lived in Minneapolis, and he had been he's been described, I should say, as a recruiter for ISIS or for other extremist elements, and that obviously is Minneapolis. So I think that's where we're kind of looking at maybe some U.S. connections. I mean, at this point, we do know that that while ISIS or elements with ISIS have claimed responsibility for some attacks, including Paris, they have not claimed such responsibility in San Bernardino. So they've expressed support and happiness that this happened in their name, and they have encouraged people to carry out these sorts of attacks on their own. But the exact sort of connection or link or communication that they might have been having still is kind of up in the air. We're still waiting to hear any sort of confirmation, really, that this was regular, this communication was regular, that they were receiving any sort of guidance. And I think that's where the investigation into this money comes into play. Listen, anybody who had anything to do with helping, supporting, sending them packages, giving them money. So whoever was giving them this money, or whether this money was a loan, this $28,000 that Farouk was cashing out, the source of that is really important.
Right. Jessica Rosenthal, Fox News Radio, following the story as more information becomes available about the two shooters in San Bernardino. Jessica, thank you. We appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Good to speak with you. I want to get back. Oh, well, that's going to dovetail into the comments by Donald Trump yesterday, which everybody is buzzing about last night and this morning. Chris Steyerwalt will weigh in on that, Fox News digital politics editor, in about 15 minutes. Meantime, I want to finish out this auditor story, at least one part of it. Now with Gaynor not running for re-election, but staying in the office till 2016 and certainly refuting rumors that he was going to resign. But Democrats have to find a candidate. Two names have come up, and those names are Jason Pizzatella and Doug Reynolds. Jason Pizzatella is currently Governor Tomlin's Secretary of Administration, and he's known to have political ambitions. But he did not, when I talked to him yesterday, he did not want to comment on a possible run. And also Doug Reynolds. Doug Reynolds is a Democratic delegate from Cabell County. He's a lawyer and businessman there. And Reynolds is not running for re-election to the House of Delegates. He announced that, I think, in October. Said he was looking at a couple of statewide races, including Attorney General. But also now, as I talked to him yesterday, he would not rule out looking at the auditor's race as well, but he had not made any decision yet. So Jason Pizzatella, Doug Reynolds, two names being mentioned in that auditor's race. This is Talkline on MetroNews, Voice of West Virginia. 10:30, let's get a news update. Check in with the MetroNews Radio Network. Find out what's happening statewide this hour, all across the great state of West Virginia.
Virginia Metro News, I'm Shauna Johnson. If you see something, say something. A message from Bill Ehlenfeld, U.S. Attorney for West Virginia's Northern District, with everyone on alert following last week's terrorist attack in San Bernardino, California.
Before they make a call, I would recommend that they write down what they've seen, what they've heard, what they have observed, so that they can give the full story to the FBI. And it's not really about being paranoid. It's really about being aware of your surroundings.
Ehlenfeld says while West Virginia does not appear to be a likely target, the Mountain State is not immune. Tonight, Ehlenfeld will be in Ohio County, where the Ohio County Sheriff's Department is launching a program allowing deputies to carry naloxone, an overdose-reversing medication. A former Fayette County teacher already serving a prison sentence for child pornography is getting additional time for sexual abuse for his relationship with a 13-year-old student at Collins Middle School, the school where he had been a gym teacher. Joshua Taylor will serve another 10 to 20 years after his current sentence ends. The Chief Justice for the state Supreme Court will be in Boone County next hour, announcing changes in the makeup of the Supreme Court's Juvenile Justice Commission. Chief Justice Margaret Workman created that commission in 2011. The 2015 buck season in West Virginia is in the books, and State Division of Natural Resources officials say it was a good one. Read more at WVMetroNews.com. You're listening to Metro News for 30 years, the voice of West Virginia.
Hello, this is Governor Earl Ray Tomblin. If you or a loved one is struggling with substance abuse, you can find help and hope in West Virginia. Call 1-844-HELP-4WV. Call line counselors stand ready to connect you with the services you need. Begin the road to recovery today. Call 1-844-HELP-4WV or visit help4wv.com.
There are things that make our lives easier.
You know, locking shoelaces, pizza scissors, remote control mops, one-hand bottle cap openers, and the Know Before You Go driving app.
It's free travel information on West Virginia highways, traffic congestion, work zones, road conditions, information that can make your travel easier. Log on to WV511.org or download the WV511 Drive Safe app.
Know Before You Go. It'll make your life easier.
The principal at Wheeling Park High School says members of the state championship-winning Wheeling Park football team, a first for the Patriots, have been working hard and supporting each other the entire season.
I look at it as like they've been doing this stuff all year. It hasn't just because they're in a championship. This is truly who they are. They're a great group of kids that are there for each other, for the good times and the bad times.
Amy Minch's celebrations continue for Wheeling Park. The Ohio County Board of Education recognized the team on Monday night. From the Metro News Anchor Desk, I'm Shauna Johnson.
Talkline on Metro News. Talkline presented by MVB Bank, your most valuable bank, member FDIC. So the Justice Campaign, Jim Justice Campaign for Governor, released a poll yesterday from the Global Strategy Group, which is polling for justice. And Global Strategy, same people that have polled for Joe Manchin or Ray Tomlin, very credible polling company with Jeff Pollack. Typically, they poll and work with Democratic candidates, but they are a respected polling organization. Their numbers came out this way. Jim Justice versus Jeff Kessler in the primary. They had Justice up 48% to 25% when you count leaners. And then if the election were held today, Justice v. Cole, if you count leaners, it was 44% for Justice and 32% Cole. Jeff, welcome to Talkline. Jeff Pollack, good to speak with you. Thanks for coming on today.
Thanks for having me.
Good to have you here. I got some specific questions, but take a free shot. Go ahead and take a free shot on what do you think this poll shows?
Well, the poll shows significant movement for Jim Justice, and it shows a number of things. First of all, he's becoming even better known than he was to begin with. This is a man who's never held elected office and yet was already well known when he started off, given his sort of level of prominence in the state. And now that he's been introducing himself through television advertisements and campaigning, the voters are getting to see what kind of a governor he can be. And I think so far the data shows them to be quite positive.
Jeff, the TV TV ads have been, quite frankly, they've been very good, and it's very early to run ads, and I don't think anybody else is up yet. So to me, those kinds of ads, which are running really kind of unopposed, there's no counter ads, would account for a large degree of the movement. That's my modest opinion.
Well, I think not only the ads for sure, but also the fact that he is a candidate and he's doing stuff and he's out there and he's talking to people about his vision. And I think all those things combined, there's no question he has the airwaves to himself. But that's what's interesting about Jim Justice. This is a guy who does it his own way and has always been successful in West Virginia and for the people of West Virginia. And that's what's so great about him.
Jeff Pollack is with us, pollster for a Global Strategy Group, co-founder, in fact, and they're the pollster for Jim Justice. Let me go to some of the breakout here, little bit of the breakout. Jeff, for example, Justice v. Kessler, 27% undecided. Now, you've been around a long time. 27% undecided, that's a big number, which tells you, doesn't it, that a lot of people really aren't thinking about this race yet.
Sure, it is, but it's also, I could say, an even smaller number that I might have expected. Look, Jeff Kessler had done a poll a couple of months ago. I don't remember the date. You might remember it, Hoppy. Whereby he showed the race a virtual tie. I think he had Jim up by 2 points in that race, and now we're up by 23. And so while you're correct, 27% being undecided, there's plenty of time. Right now Jeff Kessler would need to win 100% of those voters in order to win the election, and you and I know that that's a very, very difficult road to climb. So sure, plenty of undecideds, also plenty of time. Jim's just started, and we've got a long way to go before the primary. But I'm impressed with the name ID. Kessler's been out in the public domain for a long time, and only about 27% of the people know who he is, as opposed to almost 60% of the people and 2/3 of the Democratic primary voters who know who Jim Justice is.
I think Jim Justice started with much higher name recognition. I mean, people, I can just tell you casually, you go around and you go, do you know Jim Justice? Yeah, he's the guy that saved the Greenbrier. I mean, you start out from a position of a great position with that. That's how people associate a lot of people associate Jim Justice. Let me go to that same number, though, with Bill Cole, where you have 24% undecided or refuse to answer. Now, if I'm going to get to more of this in a moment, but if Democratic voters are not necessarily inspired, depending on who the presidential candidate is, if you have 24% undecided, will there be a motivational problem for Democrats to go out and vote for whoever the nominee is, and in your case, Jim Justice?
You think Democrats have a hard time winning the presidential at the top of the ticket? I'm not sure, Hoppy. What do you mean?
Well, I'm going to refer to every West Virginia poll. That's what I'm going to say.
Yeah, I mean, no question. But, look, as you know, I work for Governor Tomlin. I work for Senator Manchin and Governor Manchin. And, we have these discussions all the time about what's going on in the federal races. What happens in those races and what happens in the state races are very, very different. And people treat their governor in a very personal way and very individual way. I can't tell you how many times I heard the same thing. Oh, you can't win in Louisiana. Guess what? The Democrats win in Louisiana for governor because the voters think about things in a very, very different way for governor. And the kind of person they're looking for in a governor right now, we know, you know it from, look at the crazy Trump phenomenon that's gone on all over the place, right? People are looking for that person who's outside of politics, somebody who's different, somebody who's been successful. And in that, you've got Jim Justice and a guy who's delivered proven results. Look, politicians promise all the time they're going to deliver. The difference here is that Jim Justice has actually done it on the ground, and voters, many of them do know it, as you said, Hoppy, but those who don't, we're going to help show the Jim Justice story, and I think they're going to find it very appealing.
So, Jeff, are you saying that Justice is the West Virginia version of what you just called the crazy Trump phenomenon?
I don't know. He's certainly not Donald Trump. I would hope he would say things that are a little more politic. I know Jim Justice wouldn't say some of the things Donald Trump says, but I think the notion of the outsider is what Jim Justice has to sort of build on and grow on, because the voters are not looking for the same politicians from Charleston right now. They are looking for something different, and that's what Jim Justice has, and frankly has it over Bill Cole in spades.
Jeff Pollack is with us with Global Strategies, the research group for Jim Justice. All right, let me go again, though, to those presidential numbers. We know that the president, the old MetroNews West Virginia poll, I'm sure your polling shows the president wildly unpopular in West Virginia, so maybe 71% disapproval rating. That, I think, suppresses Democratic turnout in a presidential year. You've chronicled the switch of the state from blue to red. You have to concede headwinds for whoever the Democratic nominee is in 2016, don't you?
I can't possibly say that the presidential ticket on top is helpful, right? We know that to be the case, but I heard the exact same thing when we were doing the polling for Joe Manchin, who was busy with the top of the ticket and Obama losing the state 70-30, and at the same time Joe Manchin was winning by double digits, because that's what happened. Look, presidential turnout, I can't agree with your assumption or your discussion that the presidential itself will depress turnout. There's no belief that the presidential is going to be that competitive in West Virginia. Presidential voters, they vote, right? They vote. We have a larger turnout every 4 years for the presidential, and that will continue. And the fact that the Democrats in West Virginia aren't doing as well, I don't think will have a big effect. Would I love it if the Democrats were doing better for president? Sure. But in terms of the way we run campaigns in West Virginia, we build in and we know going in that there's going to be nothing helping us at the top, and so we got to win it on our own.
Yeah, Jeff Pollack is with us from Global Research, Global Strategies concerning Global Strategy Group, co-founder of that, concerning their poll numbers for Jim Justice. Do you think strategically, it is, and you've probably done some polling about this, but you're not disclosing it today. Do you think it's important for your candidate, Jim Justice, if in fact he's the nominee, to establish some sort of distance with whoever the Democrat, if it's Hillary Clinton, to say, I support the Democratic ticket, but I'm not necessarily on board with Hillary Clinton because she's going to be, for all these environmental causes? And sure. How does he, if he's a nominee, how does he parse that?
Well, it's exactly as you just said, Hoppy, and I've actually even heard the Justice campaign say things just like that. God knows I've heard Joe Manchin say it. Look, we saw Joe Manchin shoot the cap and trade bill very famously in a way to demonstrate his independence. And so, look, the voters in southern states and conservative states are looking for some differentiation between the national Democrats and sort of the West Virginia Democrats. Joe Manchin has that differentiation in spades. People know it. Earl Ray Tomblin, one of the most popular, if not the most. I saw a poll, may have even been your poll, that showed him to be one of the most popular politicians in the state. They get that these guys are not the same as Washington. I don't know how you're going to paint a picture of Jim Justice, though, being sort of close with the folks in Washington, and there are going to be plenty of ads that try to tie him to Barack Obama, and I just think the voters are going to look at that and be like, what on earth does Jim Justice have to do with that? The answer is nothing. The only thing Jim Justice had to do with in West Virginia is creating jobs, saving the Greenbrier, a man of coal. I mean, these are the things that the voters in West Virginia respect and like, and that's why I think he's going to be a tremendous candidate.
Jeff Pollack of Global Strategy Group. Jeff, it's good to talk to you again. Thanks for coming on Talkline today. We appreciate your time.
Anytime, Hoppy.
All right, man. Good talking to you. We'll take a break and come back. When we come back, Chris Steyerwalt, digital politics editor for Fox News.
Look around your holiday table this year and think, how many faces are missing because they've had to leave home to find good jobs in more technology-driven, economically diverse states? The High Technology Foundation is working to keep young, educated West Virginians here at home by attracting high-tech companies to our state. The High Technology Foundation is helping build stronger West Virginia families by building a stronger West Virginia, because there's no place like home and family for the holidays. Learn more at wvhtf.org.
'Tis the season to start saving. At MVB Bank, it's easy with our new 12-month CD. Start earning 1.15% annual percentage yield with a minimum deposit of just $1,000. To start your CD savings today, visit our jolly team at any MVB location or call us at 844-MVB-BANK. It's sure to keep you off the naughty list next year. MVB Bank, your financial life made easy. Member FDIC. You feel a strong desire to help hurting children and families in West Virginia, but you think,
what could I do?
Burlington United Methodist Family Services has a place for everyone. Folks to help with office duties in their facilities across the state. Professional and business people to help teach youth about their professions. Volunteers for their annual pumpkin and apple harvest festivals. And of course, donations of all kinds. What can you do? Search your heart and go to bumfs.org today. bumfs.org.
This is Talkline on Metro News. For 30 years, the voice of West Virginia.
We used to think all lung cancer was the same.
But now we know there are several different molecular types of lung cancer.
By performing molecular testing on a lung cancer tumor, doctors can try to determine what's causing it to grow, which can help identify treatment options.
Not all lung cancers are the same. Talk to your doctor to see if molecular testing is appropriate for you. And visit lungcancerprofiles.com. That's lungcancerprofiles.com. A public service of 6 leading lung cancer advocacy groups and Pfizer Oncology.
Okay, so 5 tacos of cheese and a large soda. That's $10,012. Please drive around.
Wait, 10,000 what?
It's obvious you're buzzed and driving.
I've only had a few. I'm fine.
Yeah, the food's $12, but getting pulled over for buzz driving could cost you around $10,000 in fines, legal fees, and increased insurance rates. Please drive around. Actually, just park and come in.
Nothing kills a buzz like getting pulled over for buzz driving, because buzz driving is drunk driving. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
If you want to be an adoptive parent, it doesn't matter if you're a little different.
I'm a box troll. Oh, really?
What you look like.
Your ears aren't pointy. I slept on them funny.
Or what you sound like. You just need to be there. You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care don't need perfection. They just need you. Call 888-200-4005 or visit adoptuskids.org. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
He wanted to be known for doing his best.
Sure, right.
His best made him Major League Baseball's most valuable player.
Strike 2.
He played in 6 World Series and was elected to the Hall of Fame. Although an honest man, he was best at stealing home. But the best quality of Jackie Robinson's life was his character. So here's to you, Mr. Robinson. Thanks for passing it on. From the Foundation for a Better Life at Values.com.
Talkline on MetroNews. Welcome back. The West Virginia State Farm Museum's Christmas Light Show opens Friday in Point Pleasant. Each tree, shrub, and building will be decorated with over 3 million lights, and Santa will be making nightly appearances at the country store. Enjoy hot chocolate, cookies, and take in one of West Virginia's most dazzling light shows. For more holiday light shows near you, go to the website, go to WV. Go to WV, call 1-800-225-5982. Republican presidential frontrunner Donald Trump has called for barring all Muslims from entering the United States. The statement said Donald J. Trump is calling for a total and complete shutdown of Muslims entering the U.S. until our country's representatives can figure out what's going on, a campaign release said. Now, there have been some different versions of that in his discussions with news organizations last night and this morning. Chris Stirewaltz with Fox News. He's their digital politics editor. Good morning, sir.
Howdy.
What do we make of all this?
Oh, it's another good old Trumpgasm. Donald Trump had a problem. His problem was that nobody was paying any attention to him because of the San Bernardino attacks. The President's Oval Office address. The country was having a discussion about Obama's policies on ISIS, on domestic security, on this stuff. None of this includes Donald Trump. And so Trump launches out a statement yesterday afternoon that is, I mean, you can't call it preposterous because it's from the Republican frontrunner, but it is heretofore unimaginable, and says no Muslims will be allowed into the United States for a period of time. You say what? And his campaign then says he means all Muslims. He means even U.S. citizens who are overseas. You will not be allowed to enter into the United States. You say, well, that doesn't sound constitutional, or what's going on here? Then over time, Trump says, no. See, the service members of the military who are Muslims, they would be allowed back into the United States if they're citizens. Others, case by case. We're just going to pause for a while and institute this religious test. How will we conduct the religious test? Well, we'll ask people. Now, I don't know. I mean, maybe you could have a bacon sandwiches at customs ports and ask people to take a bite, to be allowed to enter. I do not know how in the Trump administration, how the practical application of this would work. But at any rate, the practical application was to get Donald Trump full 100% media saturation attention.
Which has worked.
Oh, it works every time. You talk about Mexican rapists. You talk about any number of things over time. You insult somebody. You say something totally audacious. And so here's the thing. Donald Trump knows that the press doesn't like him except for the ratings that he brings them. But he knows this. They have the same interest as he does. Many in the press have the same interest that he does, which is to have him on television as much as possible.
Mm-hmm.
If you believe about the press, the political press, what Donald Trump says is true and what Republicans have always believed is that it's substantially liberal, that is substantially canted towards the Democratic Party nationally. If you believe that's the case, then of course they would want Trump to be on. They would want Trump to be on endlessly, and especially if he is talking about instituting a religious test for Muslims as they try to enter the United States. On Monday or on Sunday, the president said, we cannot practice broad-based discrimination against Muslims. The Republicans came back and said, what the hell are you talking about? Nobody's calling for broad-based discrimination against Muslims. That's crazy. We're talking about why you stank at fighting ISIS and why your Homeland anti-terror structure has been inadequate. That's what we're talking about. We're talking about you.
Mm-hmm.
And Trump says, no, I got this. I'm here. And he wades right into the space. So
Alexander Haig, I'm in charge.
I got this. I will issue a statement, a written statement, calling for broad-based religious persecution or religious scrutiny for Americans. This following, of course, on the controversy about him being open to a reporter's suggestion about a registry for Muslims. So if you are who Republicans believe the media is, and you are secretly wearing a Hillary for President T-shirt under your suit, if that's really who you are, then this is double coupons, because you get the ratings because you've got the Trump and it's controversial and it's crazy, and also you continue to seal the fate of Republicans in the 2016 election.
That's a pretty good summary right there.
The Trumpgasm is a knowable, identifiable cycle. It keeps happening. And what's great about it for Trump is that if you are somebody who is on board the train, if you're in and believe that Trump and only Trump, if you are a Trump devotee, then this is a self-fulfilling prophecy. They're all against me, don't you see? And it's like, well, maybe they're all against you because you say stuff that is going to have the Republican Party sink into the bottom of the ocean. And he said, no, they're against me because I'm telling the truth.
Mm-hmm.
I'm the only truth teller. And most importantly, I'm the only one who you can believe. Are you going to believe me, or are you going to believe your lying eyes?
Let me, Chris Tyrwell's with us, Fox News Digital Politics editor. Let me segue to the president's speech the other night. I know you wrote I saw some of your Twitter action about that. And I summarized his speech in 3 words: I got this. I mean, that's what it seemed like to me was, okay, we had the shooting in San Bernardino, we got all this stuff going on, everybody's saying things, but don't worry, I got it. That's what it sounded like to me, and was he successful?
He had one good speech, and he had one bad speech. Unfortunately for him, he gave them at the same time. He had a 5-minute good speech, which, by the way, that's how long an Oval Office address ought to be, about 5 minutes, 6 minutes. And he commanded the nation's attention to say, I have a strategy. We will triumph. We will unite. We will defeat these people.
This is America.
This is effing America, people, and we are going to win. And I thought this was a speech George Bush could have given. This was a speech Bill Clinton. This is a presidential strong speech, a wartime speech. And then he could not resist, which is, if we have a Trumpgasm cycle, we definitely have the Obamist cycle, which is attack your political rivals no matter what. No matter what, you must attack every time. You will never, if you are Barack Obama, you will never, I'm surprised that his Christmas cards do not have attack ads in them. You will never pass up an opportunity to attack a Republican, no matter what. And so what he did was pivot. He gives this good 5-minute speech, and then it's like you hear the needle go to the side of the record, and he says, now, about gun control. You're like, oh, dude, no, what? And he does, and then he does the thing that Trump then becomes the prophesied fulfillment of. But at the time, you're like, this is not the commander-in-chief speech. This is a
campaign speech.
Yeah. It's a campaign speech. It's an attack speech. It's a partisan speech. So if he'd have stopped at the 5-minute mark, he would have had a home run. And it would have been good. It would have been good for the country. But he could not resist. And that extra 5 minutes which was scolding the country and scolding Republicans and talking about gun control and his domestic agenda. And you think, I mean, you got 13 months left in there. You can't live it out all like this.
Chris Starwalt, you're on it, man.
Man, I learned it by watching you.
Love America.
Bye, brother.
Later. We'll be back.
True to its motto, wild and wonderful, West Virginia is the third most forested state in the country for landmass and has 7 million more forested acres now than 100 years ago. The mountain state is abundantly blessed with valuable renewable forest resources, which naturally regenerate for future generations. Forestry is the basis for over 5,000 separate wood and paper products, creating millions of dollars in state revenue from business income and property taxes. A message from the West Virginia Forestry Association, WVFA.org.
It's here, the year-end blockbuster sales event at your Central West Virginia Jeep Giant, Northside Chrysler, Jeep Dodge, Ram trucks in Somersville. Inventory is huge, and so are the savings. Come on in now for this deal, a 2016 Jeep Cherokee Latitude 4x4 cold weather group. Yep, you're going to need it. Satellite radio, retail price $29,230, blockbuster price $24,999. You save over $4,200. It's only the beginning. See us in person or online at northsidewv.com.
You're listening to Talkline on Metro News. For 30 years, the voice of West Virginia.
A boy born in Joplin, Missouri was fascinated by anything with wheels and a motor. The odds of him going on to fascinate millions with his talent? 1 in 260,000. The odds of this born racer having 157 career top 10 finishes in NASCAR? 1 in 125 billion. But every driver seeks the pinnacle of their achievements. The odds of him winning both the Daytona 500 and the Brickyard 400 in the same year? 1 in 195 million. The odds of a child being diagnosed with autism? 1 in 68. I'm NASCAR driver Jamie McMurray, and my niece has autism. Learn more at autismspeaks.org/signs. Early diagnosis can make a lifetime of difference.
Brought to you by Autism Speaks and the Ad Council.
Today, my new dad threw a barbecue.
Today, my new son and I threw a barbecue.
There were burgers and chicken.
I burnt everything. The burgers, the chicken, the salad.
They were delicious.
They were awful.
And then we had watermelon.
I'm allergic to watermelon.
And then we played catch.
I broke Mr. Lewis's window, Mrs. Wakeham's window, Mrs. Wakeham's windshield, and then somehow my hand. My hand!
And then my dad even let me drive his car.
The hospital's on the right! It was a rough day.
It was a great day.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Thousands of kids in foster care will take you just as you are. For more information on how you can adopt, visit adoptuskids.org. A public service announcement from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
Talkline presented by MVB Bank, your most valuable bank member, FDIC. The West Virginia Business and Industry Council will release their endorsement today. We reported it yesterday that BIC is going to endorse, the Business and Industry Council is going to endorse Bill Cole, Republican for governor in West Virginia. So it'll turn up in the news today. We had it yesterday with Chris Hamilton on this program. Back to the poll that Jeffrey Pollack talked about there 10 minutes ago. Well, I know it's Justice's pollster. I understand that. But I would say that the poll that shows with the leaners that if it's Justice v. Cole, that Justice would be up 42-32, 44-32. I don't think that's not necessarily that far off in my guesstimate, or that's surprising considering that Justice has been up on television for 6 weeks now, whatever it's been. with pretty good ads and unchallenged. I mean, when you can run those kinds of, here I am, here's the kind of stuff I'm going to do ads, there's no negative side to it. You're not getting pushback from the other side. You just kind of got a free run on very positive ads. It's going to move the needle, and I think that's probably what's happened here. We got a break. We'll be back. This is Talkline on MetroNews, the voice of West Virginia. Welcome back. Hour number 2 of Talkline on the Metro News Radio Network in and around the great state. Hoppy Kercheval with you. Coming up, delegate and auditor candidate J.B. McCuskey. Of course, the dynamics of that race changing with Glenn Gaynor's announcement. Also coming up, more about terrorism in this country and also more about Trump's comments. But we have some breaking sports news of interest in West Virginia and also nationally. Kyle Wiggs and Randy Jerko join us to talk about that. Kyle, what's happened?
Well, news broke just a little bit ago within the hour that West Virginia's own Jed Jerko, who went to University High and starred for the Mountaineers at WVU, was an All-American shortstop and won the Brooks Wallace Award as a college player, as the best shortstop in college. He's been dealt to the St. Louis Cardinals from the San Diego Padres, who drafted him and developed him, and he's been in the big leagues now. What, Randy? This
3
is
years.
year 3.
Yeah,
This will be year 4 coming up.
What's the rationale behind the trade?
Well, for the Cardinals, it is something they've been shopping for because they have a predominantly left-handed hitting infield. Matt Adams, their first baseman, hits left. Colton Wong, their second baseman, hits left. Matt Carpenter, their third baseman, hits left. They've been shopping for a guy who can play multiple positions, and Jed has done that as a major leaguer, primarily as second baseman, but he's played short. He played 28 games at shortstop last year, and he also played third base in the minor leagues. So he can play multiple positions. They're looking for a right-handed guy who can play multiple positions and hit with a little bit of power. And we've seen Jed do that through his career.
Does that mean he would not be, and I know everybody wants to be an everyday guy, that mean he would not be an everyday guy?
I think there'll be starts for him and at-bats because the Cardinals really had a problem last year with not getting their frontline guys enough rest. Their shortstop, Johnny Peralta, is up there in age at 37. He completely wore down and was a detriment, quite frankly, at the plate late in the season. Their second baseman, Colton Wong's a young guy who wasn't used to playing that much. He wore down, and Matt Carpenter wore down in the middle of the season. They gave him time off for exhaustion. So there's going to be I don't know if he'll be the number one guy in any of those positions, but there's going to be plenty of starts and probably 400 to 500 at-bats for him with the Cardinals, the way I see it.
Randy Jerko and Kyle Wiggs with us on the breaking sports news. The Jed Jerko, Morgantown native, has been traded from the Padres to the Cardinals. So, Randy, have you talked to your brother? What's his reaction?
I did. He called me earlier today and, kind of let me know the news. And, I was thrilled just because he gets to come closer to home. And I think he's really excited for that. And plus, a lot of people around here know about the Cardinals. It's, probably the best organization in baseball. So, if you want to go somewhere, it seems that anytime people go to St. Louis, they flourish. Not many guys show up in St. Louis and play in front of a packed house on random Tuesday nights in the middle of July and fall on their faces. So, from what I could tell, he was excited. He didn't know any specifics that Kyle just mentioned. They didn't tell him, where he'd be playing or what he'd be doing. He just kind of knew that he was getting traded to St. Louis for a left-handed outfielder who turned out to be John Jay. And
what about but there's also the personal side because you live in San Diego, except when in the off season when he lives back in Morgantown. Yeah. So you got to uproot and you got to move, and he's got a wife and child. And
he did get the two twins, but they rented a place in San Diego, so I think they had cleaned that out after the season when they'd been in Morgantown since the season ended in early October. So they have all their stuff here. So I think it'll be more just finding someone that knows the St. Louis area, which shouldn't be too hard around here with his connections, to maybe, figure out a realtor and get on the phone and try to find a place to stay. But, other than that, it's not as bad as it would be for some other places, or if he'd have been traded in the middle of the season, because then you do have to uproot everybody and try to find a place, and then you're scrambling. Whereas now you kind of make it easier to just ease into spring training.
One of the things, Kyle and Randy, is that the Cardinals, if you follow baseball, either you love them or you hate them because they've had so much success. But they are recognized as one of the best organizations in baseball that's usually competitive every year.
Yeah, they draft well. They develop their guys. The nucleus of this current team that has been successful for the past decade or longer, it's a lot of homegrown guys. So they know exactly what they're doing. And when they shop for players, they know what they're looking for, and they pursue that, and they go after them. So there's a definite fit there, and I think he'll flourish. And another thing to consider, Randy knows this, Jed, A, hits very well against the Cardinals, and B, loves to hit at that ballpark.
Yeah.
I mean, he's hit some big home runs and hit the ball well in St. Louis as a visiting player. In San Diego, I didn't get back this year, but the 2 previous years, his rookie year and his second year, I went back to St. Louis for the Padres series, and he won a game with a grand slam at a game. It was a Saturday night game there. So he hits well and seems to really enjoy playing at that ballpark specifically, and you can't beat the atmosphere. I mean, it's the best baseball atmosphere that you'll find.
Sure. So Jed Jerko, Morgantown native, been with the Padres for the past 3 seasons, traded to the St. Louis Cardinals. Randy, Kyle, thank you very much.
Yep. Missouri taxes are better than California's, too.
Are they? Well, I mean, everybody's taxes are better in California. Just mark that down, right? All right, thanks, guys. We appreciate that. Let's get back to some politics in West Virginia. The auditor's race yesterday afternoon. The story developed that Glenn Gaynor not running for re-election. J.B. McCuskey, Republican delegate from Kanawha County, had already announced that he's running for that position. He joins us on MetroNews Talkline. J.B., good morning. How are you?
Hey, Hoppy. How are you?
I'm well. Thanks for coming on. What is your reaction to Glenn Gaynor not running for re-election?
Well, I mean, let me just start by congratulating Glenn on a wonderful career in political service. As somebody who serves in the government currently, I know what kind of sacrifices Glenn had to make, and these are the kind of people that should be commended for dedicating their lives to the betterment of the state, and Glenn certainly has tried to do that, and I certainly appreciate his service, and I wish him nothing but the best.
Are you surprised?
Was I surprised? Yeah, I was pretty surprised.
Yeah. So candidly, and we don't know yet who's going to be in on the Democratic side. I got a couple of names that I've put out there, but do you feel more confident about your chances of winning because Gaynor's not going to be on the ballot?
You know, I wasn't running against Glenn Gaynor. I was running for the auditor's office, and do I feel more confident now than I did before? I don't know if I've really made that analysis, and I don't know that I will. Sort of my perspective on this is that I was running to bring my set of values and my principles to the office of the auditor, and the person who is running against me or who was in the office really didn't matter to me.
Seems to me, and J.B. McCuskey's with us, who's running for the Republican nomination for auditor, and of course the developing story, Glenn Gaynor's not running for re-election, that how does one run for auditor? I mean, most people, candidly, let's face it, do not know much about the auditor or what the auditor does, even though it's a very important position because you got the receivables and the payables for the entire state of West Virginia. So how does one even run and tell people that they should support whomever for that position?
Well, the first thing you got to do is you got to go talk to people. And my campaign and myself specifically, I've done events, and I think I'm up to 27 counties now. And I have a 9-month-old baby at the house and a legal practice. So we've been really working hard to get out and meet as many people as we can. And when I'm talking to people, what I really want to convey to them is I want to create a government that they can be proud of. And to do so, I think what we need to get back to is the fundamental principle that every single penny that gets sent to Charleston is money that was earned by the people of West Virginia. And it remains their money no matter who's in charge of it because we're spending it on their behalf. And I think as long as the government officials in Charleston continue to use that mantra, I think we can return a sense of confidence that our government is spending their money in the best way possible.
JB, one of the criticisms that Gaynor has been subjected to, typically by Republicans, is, well, West Virginia put in place over a number of years, it's been a long process, this really big new computer software system. The OASIS system is supposed to streamline things. It's supposed to bring about best practices. Glenn, who was on this program earlier, has staunchly defended that as an investment in best practices that will produce returns. Some Republican leaders have said, how long should this have taken? How much are we spending here? Does the OASIS system, in your opinion, work? Are we getting full utilization? Was it the right thing to do?
Well, I hate to go back and play armchair quarterback, but it seems like we spent an awful lot of money on a computer system that isn't delivering anything right now. And when you look at a budget deficit of $250 million, you talk about a state budget where the governor is proposing a 1% cut to education. I'm certain that the $130 million that we spent on this computer system could have been invested in our kids or in our infrastructure, and we could have dealt with our technology issues a little bit later on.
So OASIS was a mistake?
I don't know that it was necessarily a mistake. It might have potentially been mistimed.
Now, also the most recent controversy that Mr. Gaynor was involved in amounted to a switch in the state's payroll system from a payment of twice a month to every 2 weeks. And my goodness, that developed into a huge controversy because of the way it was calculated. So you tell me, since you want to be the auditor, should we pay all state employees twice a month or every 2 weeks? And if it's every 2 weeks, why can't we figure that out?
Well, first of all, we need to pay all the state employees what they're owed, and nothing less and nothing more. And I don't think any of the state employees want anything more, and I don't think they want anything less. So until I am certain that the amount of money that's coming out of the state's treasury to pay the salaries of our state employees is both sufficient to pay their salaries or is not more than so, I won't be satisfied. And whether it's twice a month or whether it's every 2 weeks, I mean, I'm not sure anybody asked the state employees what they wanted. And I think that's a pretty important question that needs to be asked because they spend a lot of time and effort working for not enough money in almost every single sense. And I think their input should have probably been taken into account. And as auditor, I certainly will seek to try to determine how they would prefer to be paid because I think their input is important.
Okay. Finally, two Democrats I know are at least thinking about running now with Gaynor out. Jason Piscatella, who's Governor Tomlin's chief Secretary of Administration, and Doug Reynolds, who's a House of Delegates member, Democratic House of Delegates member from Cabell County. I'm sure you know both of those guys. Any thoughts on either one of them, being if either one of them ran?
Well, Jason and I went to law school together. I've known Jason for a long time. Jason's a good guy, and Doug Reynolds sits right near me on the floor of the House. He's a smart guy, hard worker, and you know, I would welcome the challenge from either one of them because they're both gentlemen and both have a dedication to West Virginia. I feel though that the work that I'm going to put into this campaign and the message that I'm bringing is going to be really hard to beat, and I would look forward to a positive campaign with either one of them because I think they'll have the right ideas, the right campaigns to run a positive campaign that's not burdened by negative junk.
You know, you could go down to the courthouse and change your name to Gaynor because in the last 55 years, according to my calculation, only for 4 years has the auditor not been named Gaynor.
You know, I was thinking about doing that, but I'm pretty sure my dad and my wife would be pretty angry with me if we changed the old family surname.
Got it. J.B. McCuskey, thanks for coming
on. Hey, Hoppy, just real quick. I'm a big, huge Pirates fan, rabid, actually.
Okay.
And I'll tell you, this Jerko news makes me nervous because I've followed him ever since he came out of WVU. The guy is an absolute awesome infielder, and we got to play him 3 times more now than we used to have to, and that makes me nervous.
That's right.
But I'm real excited to get to see him play because he is a great ball player.
But West Virginia, fans of the West Virginia fans or people follow, because I think there are a lot of folks who know who Jed is and they follow baseball and they might have a favorite team, the Pirates or the Reds, but they follow Jerko because he's a West Virginia guy. And now you're going to have more chances to see him play.
Yeah, and he lays it out there every day. The guy plays really hard and he has got some pop in his bat. He's fun to watch, and I'm nervous. I'm nervous about the Cardinals, who make me nervous all the time.
Of
but now
course,
they just got a little bit better. So.
Baseball, you're always nervous about the Cardinals. Got it.
Well, and I'm friends with his brother Scott, so I'm happy for them to get him a little closer to home because St. Louis is a lot closer to West Virginia than people think.
Yeah, you can drive there in a day.
Yeah, that's right.
All right, JB, good talking to you. Thank you much.
Hey, Hoppy, have a great day. Thank you.
All right, good talking to you. Yeah, so we're talking. The talk migrates to baseball. Jed Jerko. Morgantown, West Virginia native, played at University High, WVU, went to the Padres, traded to the St. Louis Cardinals. We'll be back.
We're in the spirit of giving at MVB Bank this year, and our gift to you includes awesome CD products at great rates, like our 58-month 2.12 annual percentage yield CD. You can start saving today with a minimum deposit of just $1,000. Hurry in now and avoid the holiday rush. This is a present that keeps on earning year after year. MVB Bank, your financial life made easy. Member FDIC. Visit us at mvbbanking.com.
In this season of giving, consider donating your used vehicle to Good News Mountaineer Garage. You'll get the best tax deduction possible and the satisfaction of knowing your donation changed the life of someone in need. Good News Mountaineer Garage repairs donated vehicles and provides them to qualified West Virginia families, giving them access to employment, safe, affordable housing, health care, and other vital necessities, and putting them on the road to economic independence. Call 1-866-GIVE-CAR today for Good News Mountaineer Garage. 866-GIVE-CAR.
Hello, I'm your neighbor.
Your sister.
Your son.
Your granddaughter.
I was broken, hungry,
helpless and hopeless.
Catholic Charities reached out to me in hope, faith, and love.
They were there in my time of need, and they'll be there for you.
No matter how old or young you are, Catholic Charities of West Virginia offers hope, help, and love for all ages. Visit CatholicCharitiesWV.org and find your hope today. Catholic Charities West Virginia is an equal opportunity employer and service provider.
This is Talkline on Metro News. For 30 years, the voice of West Virginia.
This is a guided meditation on parenting. Begin by finding a comfortable, relaxed position. Let out whatever stress is in your body. It could be from the time you left your daughter's blouse in the dryer too long and it shrunk 4 sizes, or when you donated her private diary to the public library, or when you thought chaperoning the school dance meant actually dancing in the school dance. Whatever it is, let it go. The fire you started with that experimental dinner, let it go. The time you drove away from the gas pump with the gas pump, let it go. 3, very relaxed. 2, there you go. 1.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. There are thousands of teens in foster care who don't need perfection. They need you. For more information on how you can adopt, visit adoptuskids.org. A public service announcement from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
Just now, another kid dropped out of school. There's one every 20 seconds. Over 200 kids an hour. That adds up to nearly 5,000 kids every school day.
If we do nothing, 3.5 million kids won't receive a diploma over the next 4 years. But there is someone who can change that. And that someone is you. United Way knows that kids who have a caring adult in their life are more likely to make it. So make a pledge. Tutor a child who needs help. Mentor a kid who needs someone on their side. Volunteer to read to children. Because the path to success or failure starts long before graduation day. And the difference between a graduate and a dropout could be you. Take the pledge to volunteer now at unitedway.org. Brought to you by United Way and the Ad Council.
Talkline on Metro News. Talkline presented by MVB Bank, your most valuable bank member, FDIC. Coming up in just about 9 minutes, we're going to talk more about the Donald Trump comments. Federal investigators believe there is a very serious possibility that Tashfeen Malik, one of the 2 shooters who murdered 14 people and wounded 21 others in San Bernardino, that she radicalized her husband, Saeed Farouk. Investigators also believe the couple had planned a second attack after the shooting at a social service center. Also, Farouk had traveled to Saudi Arabia in July to bring her to the United States. The Saudi embassy in Washington has confirmed that Farouk's 2014 trip lasted 9 days. But again, the question is, if they had become radicalized, how could they travel so freely, or were they radicalized later? Pencella Smith is a counterterrorism specialist and joins us on Metro News Talkline. Pencella, thanks for joining us. Are there anything questions that have been raised about their radicalization and about their travel that sends up red flags to you?
Yeah, absolutely. So first of all, what I wanted to know when I first saw the story is, why was it not flagged that, we found out that this lady lied on her K-1 visa? And that's the thing that really gets to me is she lied about it, and what she lied about was using a fake address. So when you know how many agencies, the K-1 visa, what we're calling the fiancé visa, has to go through, when you know how many steps there are taken, that's what is concerning to me, is why our government did not catch that she was lying about her address. The second thing is all the travel, okay? Mm-hmm. The travel back and forth to the Middle East. Now, look, I've gone to the Middle East several times myself, so I'm not trying to, say that every time you go back and forth to the Middle East there's a problem. But the fact that you couple that with the fact that Saeed Farouk was in regular communication with people who are on the FBI list. We have now a lot of sketchy emails and then a lot of posts on online sites about hating Israel and hating America. all of these things should be red flags.
But there's always, in a country where we begin with the premise of freedom and liberty, there's always the fine line between the protection of freedom and liberty and raising suspicion. So how do we find that sweet spot, Pincella?
Listen, if you want to use your freedom of speech to put down this country and to call for jihad and to call for the murder of people, then now you've crossed over into being a person that should be put on a terrorist watch list. I mean, that's plain and simple to me. Yes, we have a freedom of speech, but if you want to put yourself out there as saying, Israel doesn't belong in the Middle East, America doesn't understand Muslims, you want to put out calls to jihad, you want to, again, take it a step further and contact people who are on the FBI watch list, that is called, those are calls for more intense scrutiny, not to mention the fact that Saeed Farouk's mother, Rafia Farouk, is an active member of the Islamic Circle of North America. They're called the ICNA, and they are connected to Jamaat-e-Islami, which is a very radical group in Pakistan. So there was more than, the media likes to keep saying, well, there weren't really signs. Actually, there were more than the typical signs here that these people had become radicalized.
So what additional security steps should we take in this country?
Well, I mean, first of all, why don't we try enforcing the laws that we have on the books? I mean, I'm going to repeat this until I'm blue in the face. Why in the world did we not catch that this woman put a fake address on her K-1 visa? I mean, that's supposed to be one of the hardest visas to get. It was created in 1970 in the United States. It's supposed to be one of the hardest ones to get to prevent fraud because some people were just trying to marry Americans, just to get to America. So that's supposed to be one of the hardest visas to get, and yet and still, she lied on her application to get here. The second thing we have to do is monitor these online sites. And, people say they don't want, this is government overreach, but it's just kind of like the act that just expired where we're not allowed to collect metadata from the phone companies. That is now a problem because Saeed Farouk, we are unable to track more of his phone conversations that he had with these people on the FBI list because we allowed that to expire. And people tried so hard not to be like George W. Bush, but now we need this data. Okay, and thirdly, we need to take the fight to where it really is being had, which is on the ground in Syria and Iraq. ISIS is very well organized. They are very well funded. They now have territory that is larger than the state of Indiana, and they have more money than any other terrorist organization. So it's time out for this patty cake stuff, and that doesn't mean infringing on the rights of people, but it does mean protecting the American people. And if you got to give up a little more information, then you should be willing to do that, especially if you're not plotting terrorist attacks.
Pincella Smith, counterterrorism specialist. We appreciate your time. Thanks for coming on Talkline today.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. We're going to take a break and come back. And when we do, we're going to get to the comments, the controversial comments by Donald Trump about, and it's taken a couple different forms, and he's modified a little bit from last night and this morning. I saw him on some of the shows this morning or heard him in phone conversations with some of the news anchors this morning about blocking Muslims, at least for the time being, from coming into the country. That is all Muslims from coming into the country. And that has produced a significant amount of debate and discussion. Last night, there was an interfaith gathering in Charleston. One of those involved, Rabbi Victor Urecki was involved. He's going to join us here to talk about that. Phone number 1-800-765-8255. Email talkline@wvmetronews.com. Tweet me at Hoppy Kercheval. Text me 304-TALK-304. This is Talkline on Metro News, the voice of West Virginia. It's 11:30. Let's get a news update. Check in with the Metro News Radio Network and find out what's happening statewide this hour, all across the great state of West Virginia.
West Virginia Metro News, I'm Shauna Johnson. The name Gaynor has become synonymous with state auditor here in West Virginia. Gaynor has held the elected position as the state's chief bookkeeper for most of the past 50-plus years. That will change in early 2017 when Glenn Gaynor III leaves office. Gaynor on Monday announced he will not be seeking re-election in 2016. His current sixth term, he says, will be his last. Work to clean up the former Freedom Industries site in Kanawha County continues today.
Core Environmental is performing the work. They'll remove 10,000 tons of dirt to be put in the Charleston landfill, dirt laden with MCHM. But Kelly Gillenwater at the DEP explained they won't leave an open hole there.
They're actually backfilling the site with new dirt that has been tested to make sure that there are no contaminants of concern in it.
Process of the soil removal will take about 3 months, weather permitting, and the full remediation won't be done until late next year. Gillenwater said they've had inquiries about buying the property and using it again once that work is done. She said they anticipate industrial use will come with a number of restrictions on what can and cannot be done on that site. I'm Chris Lawrence, WVMetroNews.com.
A bank robber who held up a Mercer County bank while on a bike in the drive-thru will not be eligible for parole for 20 years as part of his 60-year sentence for first-degree robbery. In Monongalia County, a 17-year-old girl charged with arson accused of setting a small fire Saturday at a home for at-risk kids in Morgantown. You're listening to Metro News for 30 years, a voice of West Virginia.
Metro News Radio Networks, the voice of West Virginia and the voice of successful businesses across the state. You might be interested to know that when you advertise on Metro News, your message is heard in all 55 counties on more than 60 radio stations, that our programming reaches more than 600,000 people each week, and that by associating with West Virginia Metro News, you're associating your business with some of the biggest names in the state, like Hoppy Kercheval, Tony Carini, Chris Lawrence, Fred Persinger, and many more. But maybe you should just listen to what some of our advertisers have to say.
Metro News understands West Virginia, understands the businesses in West Virginia, understands the people.
And it's in every little nook and cranny and small town in West Virginia.
It's accomplishing what we set out to accomplish.
We're reaching a vast majority of West Virginians through the network.
They really do become a strategic partner.
It is the simplest and easiest way to reach the largest percentage of West Virginians.
Visit WVMetroNews.com to find out how to get your business on the most efficient and effective advertising entity in the state. Metro News, the voice of West Virginia.
West Virginia University opens the year 2016 in Phoenix, Arizona with the Motel 6 Cactus Bowl game against Arizona State. And WVU Alumni Association spokesperson Kevin Berry says he's confident many Mountaineer fans will make the trip as well.
We're excited for the bowl game, putting our fan travel program together, our fan events that we're putting together. And like I said, we're excited. We think it's going to be a good bowl game.
Travel packages are available for the January 2nd Cactus Bowl. From the Metro News Anchor Desk, I'm Shauna Johnson.
Talkline presented by MVB Bank, your most valuable bank member, FDIC. Please welcome to the show Rabbi Victor Urecki from Charleston. Rabbi, good morning. Good to talk to you. Thanks for coming in our studios. Rabbi, you with me? Rabbi, hello. I'm sorry. Rabbi, you with me?
Yes, I am.
Thanks for going. Rabbi, I appreciate it. Get a little closer to that mic. Make sure we got a good level there. Rabbi, you all had an interfaith gathering last night. What was the purpose of that?
It was really just to get to know each other better. The Islamic Center has been doing that for many years, and this was a good opportunity to bring people together and have a discussion about the peace and harmony that should exist in our country.
How'd it go?
Went tremendous. Hundreds of people were there. Great gathering filled with sharing and quite a bit of love.
Okay. So why do you think that's important in this day and time? I mean, can we all really get along? Can we?
Oh, I think we can. The program that we had last night was indicative of exactly what America is all about, and that is we're a melting pot. We are a country of immigrants. We're a country that shares with each other, loves each other, and despite our differences, we find that we have more in common than we do differences.
Yeah. Rabbi Victor Urecki is with us, and I do agree about we have a lot more in common than we have differences, and we are a melting pot. However, would you concede that there are those who enter this country who are here who don't want to be part of the melting pot? And in fact, we know from what happened in San Bernardino that there are those who are living in this country who view this country as the enemy. I mean, that's a fair statement, isn't it?
Of course there is. I mean, there are people that are an enemy not just to the American way of life, but immigrants, which include Muslims, that want to be a part of the American experience. They're not just enemies of people that are natives of this land, but first-generation immigrants like myself.
Mm-hmm. Where are you from? Are you from Israel?
I was born in Argentina.
Born in Argentina. When did you come here?
I came in 1965. The reason I have become very passionate about the importance of Syrian refugees being welcomed into our country is in 1938. My parents were in Poland. My dad, he was 4 years old, and he could not enter this country. Fortunately, he had a Red Cross pass, and at that time, the only country that could accept them was Argentina. If not, he would not have been around, and I would not have been born. Most of his family were murdered in the Holocaust, and it was, again, the same type of xenophobia, hatred of the stranger, that prevented his family from coming to America.
Rabbi Victor Urecki is with us from Charleston. I am very much a believer in the American dream and people coming to this country wanting the best for themselves. I'm all in on that. And I've heard the Jewish comparison a lot. However, is there not a distinction between Jews who were trying to escape the persecution by the Nazis and some radicalized Muslims who want to do harm to this country? Because I don't think any Jews who were trying to get in this country in the late 1930s had their sights on damaging or destroying America.
The overwhelming number of Muslims are not here to damage this country. The same statements, and that's why it bothers me so much as a Jew, the same statements that are being said about Muslims were being said about Jews in America in the 1930s, that we were different, our ways, our texts, our practices are evil, we would overthrow the government, we would cause the same problems that we did in Europe, quote unquote. We would take jobs away from real Americans. We were even being accused of being spies for Nazi Germany and would attack American institutions. So I hear that the overwhelming number of Muslims that are coming to this country want to be a part of the American dream like I did. And yes, there are some that do want to destroy. Those are enemies that we all share as Americans and we want to stop, and that's why there should be a robust vetting process, which we do have for refugees. It takes 18 to 24 months for a refugee to make it to this country. The process is very strong. It's actually the strongest way we can have to make sure that the right people come to this country.
Mm-hmm. Rabbi, what is your opinion of what Donald Trump said yesterday and said various versions of that today about essentially shutting the doors of the country to Muslims?
Well, it speaks of the broader problem that our country always has to fight against, and that is ignorance, hatred, and xenophobia. He is speaking to a group of people, and it's a small group of people, but they're very vocal, that find the stranger is a person to be hated. That's not the America that I grew up in. That's not the America that my parents dreamed of coming. And that is the type of comments that should be pushed back very strongly. It's pushed very strongly by Democrats and Republicans who know that that's not what America is all about.
Rabbi, do you believe that, and you've spoken out, other community leaders in West Virginia have spoken out, do you believe that the Muslim community has more of a responsibility or should do more to speak out against these very same things as well?
The Muslim community, and unfortunately because of the political narrative, sucks out most of the oxygen in the room. The Muslim community has been speaking out. Unfortunately, they do not have a lot of traction in the media because it's a softer voice, but they do speak out. They speak out in the gentle words of peace. They are here in this country. They have programs like what we had last night, which we had hundreds of gatherings of people coming. And unfortunately, the wrong people are there. Fortunately, people like yourself and people like the Gazette this morning covered it. And I think you see more and more of that. So they are doing their part. They are part of the American experience, and they do want to see that America is safe.
Yeah, and I frankly believe, and this is a generalization, I know that some are speaking out that they cannot. It's almost as though, well, that they need to do more, or it's almost as though they can't do enough. I mean, the climate now is so volatile, toxic, volatile, all those things that whenever the leaders of the Muslim community who object to what radicals are doing, whenever they think like they've said enough, they actually need to say more and then say it again and say it again, because people need to be reassured. These are scary times. People are fearful. People are angry. People are disturbed. So it's not, you can't just say it once or twice. You must continue to say it. I don't mean to sound lecturing, but that's what I believe.
Sure, and I think they do. And I think to their credit, they are speaking out. And I think it's very important for members of the non-Muslim community to come forward also and speak of the friendships and the relationships that we develop between Muslim Americans and other Americans. Muslims are a part of our communities, our culture. There are doctors, there are engineers, there are scientists. We see and encounter them all the time. They want to be part of our community, our family, our American way of life, and they are speaking out. And I think we also have an obligation to speak out about what America really represents, and that is tolerance and love.
Rabbi Victor Urecki from Charleston. Rabbi, do you think, as a man of faith, do you believe that the radical, like the radicals in San Bernardino who viciously attacked people, killed 14 people, injured 21, is that, we know it's terrorism. Is it radical Islam? Can we label it radical Islam? The president has been reluctant to do that. Others are saying, well, obviously it's a perversion or radicalization of Islam. How do you label it?
Wow, it's a great question. There is a problem with the Islamic movement today, just like there's a problem with pretty much every monotheistic movement down through the centuries. Monotheism, by its very nature, does not play well with others. It requires understanding, it requires growth, it requires evolution. Judaism and Christianity down through the centuries has had its purge, its reformation, if you will. It successfully was able to separate between church and state. Islam right now is having an internal battle, and it's going to take time for them, the moderate Muslims, to be able to have that same internal debate that will be required to prevent the type of noxious behavior that is part of some within Islam. Whether you want to call that radical Islam, whether you want to call that jihadist, whatever it is, they have that debate, and they are the ones that will be able to overcome it, not necessarily the West. And that's why we need to develop relationships with moderate Muslims, of which there are hundreds of millions, and make sure that they understand that we're on the same team, if you will.
Yeah, and Rabbi, there certainly are, and we're sitting here sort of talking about Muslims. We should have some Muslims here to talk about this,
and they will come in a heartbeat. Ask them.
Well, I will. Yeah. You can help me set that up. But frequently, I turn to Asra Nomani, who is a moderate, very moderate Muslim, who has written about it. She's a national figure, but she was subjected to pretty severe prejudice by others within the Islam community because she was trying to embrace modernity, and she got a pushback at the local mosque in Morgantown at that time a few years ago. I'm not asking you to justify that, but I'm saying that some of those who strive for modernity and toleration are rejected by elements of Islam that aren't for blowing the place up, but do reject modern beliefs.
Yeah, it's the tension that's found in every religion. I mean, Jews experienced it, Judaism had that, Christianity has it. We still have it today. There are people that understand that religion grows with encounter, religion grows with discussion, with open debate. That's the dream that we have in America, this open discussion, this willingness to engage and encounter and disagree with each other, even within our own parties, within our own religions. And Islam is experiencing that, as I said, that tension today. What she's experiencing is what you'd see in a synagogue or a church when someone has a different view. And her voice will eventually be heard as more and more American Muslims are listening.
Rabbi Victor Urecki, always a pleasure. Thank you for coming by the studios this morning.
Thank you very much for
appreciate
having me.
Yes,
Appreciate
sir,
it.
indeed. All right, we'll take a break and come back. Phone calls on this. 1-800-765-8255. 1-800-765-TALK. Email talkline@wvmetronews.com. Tweet me at Hoppy Kercheval. Text me at 304-TALK-304. I think Trump is wrong in what he says about stopping Muslims from coming into the country. There's even a constitutional question about whether you could do that. I do understand, and it's a given after San Bernardino and 9/11 and pre-9/11 that there is a fear and anger toward radical Islam. That is completely understandable and justifiable. And as the rabbi said, that moderate Muslims or Muslims who reject that have come forward, but I would just say it's a little bit like advertising, quite frankly. And that is, you have to say it again, and you have to say it again, and then you have to reinforce what you've said. Otherwise, the message is not going to be heard or it's going to get lost. And right now, America needs, frankly, and I think that most Americans are going to understand and appreciate the vision, the principle of freedom and liberty and religious freedom and religious tolerance, but reassurance is always good. We'll be back. Stay with us.
West Virginia has balanced its budget on the back of the coal industry ever since we became a state 150 years ago. Historically, the coal industry and coal-fired electric utilities have accounted for over 60% of all business taxes, while high-energy wages contribute a disproportionate share of income taxes, and coal severance dollars sustain important programs in all counties. All told, the industry infuses over $26 billion to our state's economy. Coal alone has paid down nearly $1 billion of the state's workers' compensation debt. Consequently, all state businesses have experienced major reductions in workers' comp benefits. The coal industry has always supported our people and our economy, but it's under attack from the Obama administration and the EPA. It's fighting to survive. Coal taxes in West Virginia are higher than our surrounding states. We're losing coal markets to our neighbors. Let's get our mines and coal miners working again. Support a reduced tax rate for mining, paid for by West Virginia Coal Association.
Changing lives by preventing harm and providing hope and healing to hurting children and families. Burlington United Methodist Family Services has led the way in West Virginia for over 100 years, preventing harm by helping place endangered children in safe, caring foster homes, providing hope by counseling birth parents in their choice to parent or make an adoption plan, and helping adoptive parents in their quest for a child. Go to bumfs.org to see how Burlington United Methodist Family Services is truly changing lives.
You're listening to Talkline on Metro News. For 30 years, the voice of West Virginia.
Women now make up 37% of the workforce, changing their role forever.
Harvard Medical School has now opened its doors to new female applicants.
The first woman is now in space.
The majority of last year's doctorate degrees were earned by women.
We've come so far, but our news is changing for the worse. More women die from heart disease and stroke than men, even though it can be prevented. Make a change at GoRedForWomen.org today. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the American Heart Association's Go Red for Women.
This is why you work so hard to pay the mortgage. Because home is more than four walls and a roof. It's that porch swing on a summer evening. It's everybody over for Sunday dinner, and your family sleeping in their own beds at night. Making Home Affordable is a free government resource that can make paying the mortgage easier. Call 888-995-HOPE or visit makinghomeaffordable.gov.
Good night, Mama.
This is why. Brought to you by the U.S. Treasury, HUD, and the Ad Council.
The entire world watched. They watched each step down the rungs of that small ladder, one after another, and waited with great anticipation for that last step.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
At that moment, humanity saw the impossible become the possible, and today the sky is not the limit. Achievement. Pass it on from the Foundation for a Better Life at values.com.
Green light. Hey girl, school zone. I'm getting hungry. Car changing lanes. You want to meet me for pizza? Stop sign. Intersection clear. Yeah, street. Pizza sounds good. Ball in street? Girl in street!
It's hard to concentrate on two things at once, like texting and driving. Stop the text, stop the wrecks. How will you stop texting and driving? Tell us at stoptextstoprex.org. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Talkline on Metro News. Welcome back. West Virginia State Farm Museum's Christmas Light Show opens Friday in Point Pleasant. Each tree, shrub, and building is decorated with over 3 million lights. Santa will make nightly appearances at the country store at Point Pleasant. Going to be hot chocolate, refreshments. It's a great light show this Christmas season. There are other light shows in West Virginia, too. There's a lot across the state. To find out more, visit the website, go to wv.com. Go to wv.com or call 800-225-5982. 800-225-5982. Let me talk about the Holgerson situation for a few minutes. And I wrote about it yesterday. We talked about it some. And again, Shane Lyons keeping things pretty close to the vest there. What I understand and is, well, I can confirm that, I know other media have reported this as well, that Lyons has met with Holgerson several times, and I think they've met several times recently, to talk about where they go from here. I don't know what, if anything, has come out of that, but let me make a prediction. I don't think he's going to get fired. I think if Shane Lyons was going to fire Holgerson, he would have fired him. I think he would have fired him Sunday morning or Monday morning. Well, it's Tuesday, and certainly Tuesday at the latest. So if you're going to fire somebody, you fire them. You don't wait around. You don't meet 3 or 4 times. You've made your decision. So if we're just sort of guessing here and trying to read the tea leaves, I would have a suspicion that Holgerson is not going to be fired. That there would be some extension that would be granted, but there would have to be a renegotiation of the buyout. That's fundamental. If there is not a renegotiation of the buyout to a more reasonable number, then there's no need to, you're going to make the same mistake twice? No, I don't. I think Lyons is a lot smarter than that. And I don't, and if, and I don't know Lyons well, but if Lyons would try to do that, certainly he would run that by the president of the university, and the president of the university might say, listen, I've been involved in a lot of athletic issues, and I'm not going to take that deal. I'm not going to take that deal. So I project that there will be some sort of extension with strings, with an excessively tight, well, not excessively, but with a very tight leash for next year, with some correction on the buyout provisions. Just my guess. Chris says, Hoppy, I'm guessing there will probably be at least 2 boosters that might be willing to partially bail the state out of Luck's folly. I don't know. Would there be? Can you justify in a state, granted, it's apples and oranges in terms of the money, because the athletic department is self-sufficient. You're not talking about state dollars from the state budget going into the athletic department. But at a time when the budget is very tight in the state of West Virginia, at a time when you're talking about state workers having to pay more for PEIA, when you're talking about looking for more money for roads, you're talking about state workers looking for pay raises, on and on. Even though it's not the same money. It's not the same money. But the perception of things is important. Would it be a good time to come up with $9 million, even if it's donor money, to pay people not to work? That to me is graceless. That's graceless. It doesn't look good to say at a time when things are struggling a little bit, we're going to come up with $9 million to pay people not to work. I think that's a bad signal, even though it's not the same money. I get that. That's why and I think the university's got to be well aware of that. That's why I would guess there's going to be some extension with some codicils about improvement and some restructuring of the buyout. At least that, to me, makes the most sense. We'll be back. Stay with us.
Hello?
Susan, I need your help.
Sure, what's up?
I need a contractor, and I don't know how to find a good one.
Oh, that's easy. Go to the Home Builders Association of West Virginia. They have a list of all kinds of contractors.
How do I know if they're good? I don't want just anybody.
Well, do your homework. Are they licensed and insured? Check their references and look at what they've done. Do people like them? And most of all, be sure to get a clear written contract.
Okay, where do I find this association?
Go to hbawv.org.
BAWV.org.
That's it.
Your dreams built by the best. Contact the Home Builders Association of West Virginia for a list of professionals in your area. Go to hbawv.org today. This message brought to you by our marketing partners, Lowe's of North Central West Virginia, Brick Street, 84 Lumber, Federal Home Loan Bank of Pittsburgh, ProBuild, SJ Needhawk, Valcon, Wincor, and West Virginia Housing Development Fund. The Home Builders Association of West Virginia. Go to hbawv.org today.
Come on, man, we're gonna be late. We need to leave.
Yeah, we need to hurry. Let's go.
Please slow down. You are entering a work zone.
Oh man, they're working on the road. We're not gonna make it.
You are approaching a work zone. Please slow down.
What is that?
It's just the GPS. Don't pay attention to it.
Slow down, slow down, slow down.
When you speed in a work zone, you are endangering your life and the lives of others. Slow down. It's the law.
Be a smart driver. Don't speed in work zones.
This safety message from the West Virginia Department of Transportation Division of Highways, saving one life at a time.
Every minute of every day, West Virginia's hospitals are working for you and working for West Virginia. With more than 43,000 healthcare professionals, West Virginia's hospitals are dedicated to serving the needs of their communities, even beyond traditional healthcare. I am Joe Litnaunchin with the West Virginia Hospital Association, and we are proud to celebrate our compassionate caregivers and their commitment to improving the health of all West Virginians.
A message from the West Virginia Hospital Association, online at wvha.org.
This is Talkline on MetroNews. For 30 years, the voice of West Virginia.
Attention men under the age of 35. You know what really impresses the ladies? When a guy has a few drinks and later gets pulled over for buzzed driving. That could cost you around $10,000 in fines, legal fees, and increased insurance rates. There goes let's grab dinner and a movie. Oh, I know. You drive more carefully when you're buzzed. You've proven that hundreds of times. A woman admires that kind of confidence. And you've practiced how to speak if a cop does pull you over. Slowly, clearly, and politely like, "Good evening, officer." A woman admires that kind of foresight. And what woman doesn't find it adorable that you call it buzzed even though the law calls it drunk? You could kiss $10,000 goodbye, along with any chance of having a girlfriend. Because nothing says, "I'm a catch," more than a guy who lives in his parents' basement and calls it my place.
Buzzed, busted, and broke. Because buzz driving is drunk driving. A message from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
As I went through school, one giant question loomed over me. What did I want to be? But in order to know what I wanted to be, I had to first decide what I wanted to make. I wanted to make more. So I became a teacher. Now I make learning a privilege, not a chore, and frustration a tool, not an obstacle. I make working hard seem easy, and giving up impossible. I make an old subject feel like a fresh thought, and unconventional methods common. I make material things less important, and little things like patience and kindness count. I make weekdays more exciting than weekends, and classrooms feel like anything but. I make things different, which is all I ever hoped for. I'm a teacher. I make more.
Find out how you can make more at teach.org. Make more. Teach. Brought to you by Teach and the Ad Council.
Here in West Virginia, two great jackpot games you can play from the West Virginia Lottery. Powerball has drawings on Wednesdays and Saturdays. Mega Millions has drawings on Tuesdays and Fridays. The Powerball jackpot, $145 million. The Mega Millions jackpot, $57 million. Please play responsibly. Hi, Tony. 30 seconds, but they're all yours. Take it.
Thanks. Hoppy,
Yes.
One observation I read on one of the chat rooms here today that Dana's buyout drops by $3 million January the 1st. Now, I don't know whether that's true, but I've seen it in a couple places. And if it is, it seems like there might be a couple more meetings in store.
I hear what you're saying. That would be, if I understand that correctly, because he'd then be, and if no change took place, he'd then be in the final year, start the final year's contract. I'm not sure of the nuance about that, but I'm not sure if you're going to fire him that you'll wait till January after the bowl game to fire him. I think he stays. I don't think he gets fired this year. This is Talkline on MetroNews, the voice of West Virginia.